You felt your body weigh you down from your bound wrists dangling from wrought iron chains and shackles in an empty room, damp from the moisture that precipitated along the walls. How long have you been here? At least in this room, you counted the beginning of your third day without food or water. A new tactic, you thought, while you swung your body every now and then as proof that you were still alive and kicking. Just 24 more hours until they tried another breaking method on you. With the amount of threats, condescending remarks, and snide commentary on how long you would persist, you refused to break. It was his MO, and he was well known to keep his soldiers in line. Not that you voluntarily signed up for this to begin with. Every quarter, he would always send out a collection crew for potential additions to his urban army, and you knew, along with every other poor soul that inhabited his district, that those who had been chosen never returned. The few that did show their faces again had changed, as if their spirit had died, that their soul had been purged into nothing more than a pawn in his chess game. But not you. You planned to be a swindle in his methods. Again, time held no relevance anymore. But so far you had yet to break, or rather you refused to, like all the others before. The cries of both men and women alike echoed through the walls. They were the only melody you would fall asleep to, except for that one stint in isolation. Besides attempting to break your bones, you've gone through different means of torture, courtesy of his soldiers, than himself. It was an urban myth to ever see him do the dirty work, and it was commonplace that rumors of him ever doing so were only justified for the tougher breeds to break. You swung your body again, your feet almost dragging on the dusty floor below you. Any movement was a saving grace at this point. It was proof that you were still alive, still conscious, still competent of your mental faculties. You took a deep breath while you grabbed onto the chains in your hands, lifting yourself as best as you could to relieve the pain that burned on your wrists. You swore that they were already raw, but some of your strength returned, along with some control of your body. The sound of the door opening before you caught your eye, the light almost blinding you when two figures appeared. The silhouettes were too familiar, recognizing your torturers whom, after some time with you, have grown almost tired and exhausted of your stubborn and persistent nature. A glint against the light signaled the syringe, a quirk suppressant in one of their hands. You've lost count on how many they've already injected you with it, but you figured it was that time again.
"Time to take your medicine,"
quipped one of them before they approached you.
"This time hold still, will ya?"
Your hands still clutched onto the chains above while your torturers gripped your arms tightly. The needle glinted in the backlight from outside the room, watching it descend towards you before you violently pulled against them. With an eerie grace, you gripped the chains and swung yourself upwards, your feet finding their way towards the ceiling. Peering down, you quickly pushed yourself towards your torturers, twisting until you kicked one of them upside the jaw with as much force as your quirk would allow, utilizing your chains as a means to ground your weakened state. With another swing, you twirled around the room, wall running against the slick granite walls before kicking your second torturer in the head, rendering them unconscious. The momentum shifted your weight, pulling against the root of the overhanging chains and whipping them free from it. With a thud, you crashed onto the floor, the chains clanking along with you on the cold, wet stone. The boost of strength depleted from your body, starving and thirsty. The strain tightened on every muscle while you dragged yourself towards both of your torturers, digging into their pockets for a key. One of them groaned under their breath before you kicked them in the face, knocking them out cold. The jingle of keys lifted your spirits before you tried each one in the shackles that bound your wrists. One shackle successfully unlocked, freeing you from the heavy chain, but the other had no corresponding key. Damn it. 2 chains with individual keys, possibly carried by other torturers in this place and never together with the same pair. The cries and screams continued to echo in the distance while you clumsily took to your feet, carrying one set of chains in your arms. If not for the adrenaline that still felt like it coursed through your veins, this extra weight would have been a challenge. Still, with keys in hand, you made your way to the door, your feet dragging along the floor. A successful click ensured your freedom, only from your cell as you stepped out into the dim corridor. Doors lined the walls, hearing the melody of screams through the rooms. You ignored them, at least you tried, while you limped through, keeping yourself out of anyone's sight. The halls felt like a maze. You felt turned around with every corner, wishing that you could remember what directions you were dragged over 3 days ago to this place. If only he knew, you thought, that you were trapped here. That the one person he tolerated back in his academy and internship days had been tortured over the past month. You've lost all contact with anyone outside, unaware of what the state of the city was like, but only imagining that his cull would follow a time of lull. Dragging your feet, your hopes rose when you spotted what looked to be double doors at the end of one hallway. The elevator? You recalled being brought down by one. Breathing heavily, you limped towards the door, checking back every once in a while for anyone who may sneak up on you on your escape. That was until the ding of the elevator caught your ear. The doors opened, revealing a tall, scarred man, brandished with a large tattoo and long, unruly, spiky hair. The red caught you first before he stepped out of the elevator, allowing the doors to close behind him. A moment passed while you stared into his red eyes, cheerful despite his intimidating stance. A toothy grin appeared on his lips upon recognizing you, despite your almost feeble and disheveled look.
Huh. It's you.
He spoke, taking steps towards you.
You and Bakugou, huh? Does he know you're here?
No, he doesn't.
You answered breathily.
Let me pass, Kirishima.
His grin widened at the request, shrugging his shoulders nonchalantly.
You remember me. I'm flattered. But, I think that would go against my best friend's wishes. If you're looking for a way out, maybe entertaining him would be a good first step.
What?
You turned around to flee, only to spot another blocking your path, their tattered clothes similar to Kirishima, along with similar tattoos. Another one of his goons? No. His right hand. Someone you were familiar with once, long ago. They smirked at the sight of you, their eyes judging. There was something corrupt about their behavior.
Hey, Jiro, do you think maybe we should send them straight to him?
they called with a perky tone in their voice.
Go ahead, Sweet Pea. The fights were getting boring to watch, and I could see it in his face.
He replied, causing you to stare back at him confused.
A gift from good old Kirishima.
All you saw was that toothy grin before the sound of a large boom ate your ears, the floor opening up and swallowing you whole. You fell, descending through a chute while the chain trailed behind you. You grasped at the walls, trying to activate your quirk again, but failed. That drug was still in your system. Gravity took you down, down, down. Your muscles ached from the crash against what felt like hardwood flooring, clean and dry. Slowly lifting your aching body, you strained and forced yourself from the floor, looking around and finding things out of the ordinary. Clean floors, a nice bed, a single armchair. Luxury items compared to the torture rooms you've been housed in over the past month. A few smaller items caught your eye. A handful of books, a small radio, even a few houseplants, as if this was a simple guest room. The sound of the door unlocking caught your attention while two soldiers stood outside, allowing entry to a set of heavy, familiar boots into the room. Your eyes slowly peered upwards, observing the same pair of pants until they fell on the scars that littered along his sculpted abdomen. Katsuki Bakugou strolled into the room, topless while he held onto his large jacket by his shoulders. Your eyes soon met his red steely gaze while he glared down at you, covered in dirt and soiled clothes from your days spent in torture and isolation.
Leave us,
he ordered, without leaving his gaze from you. You watched the soldiers shut the door behind him and locked the both of you inside. Peering back, you noticed the open chute that led you down here before the heavy footfalls of Bakugou's boots closed in. A jerk from your disheveled shirt pulled you from the floor and forced you to your feet before you were thrown into the armchair that sat alone in the room. The weight of the chain on your wrist pulled your arm towards the ground, emphasized further with a harsh tug from Bakugou's foot pressing his weight into it. You hissed at the pain while Bakugou leaned closer to you, his hands on both arms of the armchair and effectively trapping you in his grasp. He continued to glare at your form, pulling at your wrist every once in a while, defying his hold. And he relished in it. A wide smirk, one you were familiar with, crossed his face.
Still kicking,
he commented with a chuckle.
I underestimated you. I expected less.
Take your foot off, and we can see for ourselves.
You spat, swinging your free hand towards him only for it to be held in his grasp. His grip tightened on your wrist, feeling the pressure and pain course through you when a searing feeling bit into your skin.
Don't make me do something I'm going to regret,
warned Bakugou.
I made things easier on you.
His red stare almost pierced through you while he kept you in his grasp, forcing your wrist back onto the arm of the armchair. Easier? Being tortured and broken was easy? Thinking back to your experience in those cells above, you had witnessed much worse. Worse than what you had been put through. To say things were easy would mean that
you knew I was here?
You spoke in disbelief.
You knew all along? Why didn't you show your face? Coward!
The searing heat returned on your wrist, feeling it prick into your skin. It wasn't the first time you had been tortured with fire, but it didn't make the experience lessen. You gritted your teeth from the pain, breathing slowly and heavily to keep you from screaming.
Don't insult me,
warned Bakugou, his voice curdling with a smoldering rage.
Be thankful I haven't decided to blow you up right now. I needed to know how far you've come, and for how long you're willing to persist. Not many have made it as far as you.
Or so I've heard. But if you made things easy on me, wouldn't that break the notion that I'm not as strong as you think?
His smirk returned while his eyes trailed down your face, filled with defiance.
We'll see about that. I don't like breaking things that are mine.
His breath lingered over you before he suddenly closed the distance and locked his lips onto yours. With his free hand, he cupped your cheek, forcing you to twist your head to his will, while both your arms were restrained. Like a hunger, he continued to deepen the kiss, taking you all in. He refused to let you go while you tried to catch your breath with every small parting he made. You pulled at your wrists, trying to break free from the weight of him almost crushing you. But he had you in his grasp, bending to his will. With every kiss, you momentarily melted inside. Everything in the past rushed back like a wave. The teasing, the training, the injuries, the small little dates after training. Everything rushed back. Times with Bakugou were always tumultuous, like a raging storm. But one small parting of his lips and a pause in his hungry passion gave you a moment. Staring into his eyes again, his hand gently on your cheek, you witnessed something odd, something lost long ago. What was a rageful scowl moments before was a softened, familiar look, one that he shared between him and yourself. It was as if the old Bakugou returned briefly, his heavy breath washing over you close to your lips. It was nostalgic. You rammed your head into his, causing him to howl in pain and step back from the armchair. Now freed from his hold, you gingerly inspected your wrist with minor surface burns and pulled the chain closer to you. With all that you could muster, you threw the chain across to Bakugou while he held his head, wincing, only to find him catch it in his hand, wrapping it around his arm and tugging it forcefully towards him. You flew across the room, your body too weak to resist against his strength before he grabbed a hold of your disheveled shirt and threw you onto the bed with a smack. Though the mattress softened the blow, the inertia threw you in a loop, and soon your body began to float from it. The drug was wearing off, until the tug of the chain brought you back down into Bakugou's grasp, his hands grabbing hold of you and pushing you back into the bed, his body now atop yours and pinning you down. A deep and guttural growl escaped his throat, while he held his fist in the air to swing down to you. You shut your eyes ready for the impact of it before you felt the mattress above you shift, the smoldering fist of Bakugou merely singeing your hair.
Can't anyone do anything right? He muttered under his breath, before he scoffed indignantly. I'm gonna kill those idiots. Reading his movements, you gathered he was speaking about the torturers that were assigned to you. Bakugou swiftly grabbed the chain still attached to your wrist and tugged, causing you to hiss in pain before a click caught your ear. The shackle fell to the ground with a clank, leaving you now free, before his palm rested heavily across your throat, pressing you down on the bed. That wasn't a nice thing to do, he spoke spitefully. I've already gotten enough injuries because of your clumsy ass.
And yet, you still go out of your way to receive all of that when you could have walked away years ago.
You spoke through the tightness of your throat, closed in by his grip.
Bakugou, you can't keep me caged here.
His fingers wrapped tighter around your neck to silence you before he released the squeeze, his face nearing yours again with a smirk. Don't be too sure about that, he playfully teased, pressing his body atop yours. You'll be mine soon, sweetheart. What? Snapped Bakugou aggravatingly towards the door.
Dude, sorry to interrupt.
Responded a familiar muffled voice.
Having fun? Leave me alone, shitty hair. And take that no-good extra with you.
Hey, don't be like that.
Spoke another voice, that same one that sent you down here.
You like me, you know it.
Hope you're enjoying your present.
Continued Kirishima through the door.
We'll be waiting on the ground floor if you need us.
A moment of silence passed, while Bakugou's eyes still stared at the door, his weight still against you. You felt his grip soften, now just laying atop your collarbone. You wondered if he could feel your heartbeat, filled with what adrenaline you had left coursing through you, before his hand trailed from your body, lifting himself up from the bed and stepping off. You felt your body lift from the bed ever so slightly, knowing now that your quirk had returned but still felt unpredictable. This room is yours, spoke Bakugou, uncharacteristically softer this time around. Couldn't remember what your favorite things were, but make yourself comfortable. His heavy footsteps echoed in the room before he made his way to the door, his bare back to you. You spotted those scars on his lower back that mirrored the ones from his abdomen, remembering that one stint when he caught you from flying away long ago. I wouldn't try to escape through the chute. The other end is blocked, Bakugou warned while the door opened for him. He did not turn around to see you while he exited the room, but you spotted something he left behind, still hanging by the foot of the bed.
Hey! Your jacket!
Left alone, you stared at Bakugou's large jacket, slowly reaching out for it that draped across the bed. You hesitantly recoiled, wondering what had happened just now. All of the nuances you witnessed and saw. What you once had together with him was gone. The man you once knew turned cruel, but those small moments with him now spoke otherwise. A shadow of himself was there. There may still be hope, but it could not excuse his actions over these years. His cullings, his growing army, his control. And yet he spared you. He didn't attempt to break you like his torturers did. But he still ordered them to? Confused between your head and your heart, you turned to lay back in the bed that he had held you not too long ago, only to realize you had floated halfway towards the ceiling. You looked around only to spot that chain still on the hardwood floor, the shackle Bakugou had freed you from. Back to basics again, twisting your legs to push yourself from the ceiling back to the bed. A grab of the chain gave you some weight, but wrapping it around your ankle gave the grounding you needed. Now, sitting atop the bed, you eyed one of the books left on the small bedside table. Surrounded by a room with bare walls, you succumbed to reading a page or two from one of the novels left for your enjoyment, before your eyes trailed back onto the jacket left behind. Distracting yourself became a chore. Now in a more comfortable setting before without thought, you reached out for the jacket, taking it to you and draping it across your shoulders. The size of it almost swallowed you, while his scent lingered close, clutching on its fabric. What little you knew was that one of the walls was double-sided. Bakugou watched you from the other side while you wrapped his jacket around your shoulders. He chuckled under his breath, a smirk on his face.
Soon, sweetheart,
he murmured while he made his way towards the elevator behind him.
you'll understand.